Good morning, everyone. I'm watching Kitty walk around quietly in the morning. If he stays that way, he can stay out. He's a smart cat, but he likes causing trouble. So we'll see how we do. He just climbed up into his cubby. Now if he starts batting things around and making noise, I'll lock him up. He's doing fine. So today we're going to continue on. We're reading the book of Corinthians, but I'm doing this in a topical format because each chapter basically covers an important bit of advice that he's sending to the church in Corinth. They were basically, he said they were baby Christians and had to be fed milk and not meat because they couldn't handle it. So he's going over a number of different topics, and we're in chapter 8 today, so we'll be in 1 Corinthians 8:1. Food offered to idols. Now, I'm going to do a quick commentary on it because we already know that Peter had his vision, the vision of the food coming down and all the things that are in it, that it's okay to eat. He is playing with something on the floor. You might hear him in the background. If it's not too noisy, I'll let him play. He gets something and bats it around on the floor. Typical cat fashion. So, as we start off reading here, now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. And this is kind of what I want to talk about here. We know that an idol is nothing more than an inanimate object, whether it's a statue, a block, a rock, whatever you consider to be an idol. It's nothing more than a piece of matter. It can't do anything for you. It's like having a pet rock. We remember that phase that was around a few years ago. Have a pet rock. They don't need any upkeep. You might have to dust them once in a while because they don't get out and do much. Well, that's basically what an idol is. It can't really do anything. The wonderful looking cross that people wear around their neck, it's a symbol, but it can't do anything. It's a reminder of someone who did. Here he goes, chasing around. And I'm back. I've got to get into the habit of putting him in the bedroom so that he can stay calm, at least for the time that I'm recording. After I'm done recording, he can make as much noise as he wants. It doesn't bother me to a degree. It would distract me if I was doing something important, but that required all my attention. Okay. We know that we have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, though, but charity edifieth us. So knowledge puffs up, love edifies. We know that people put their hearts into whatever they're involved in. So if they've got an idol, it's important to them. We don't necessarily want to destroy them. We want to lovingly correct them. And there's a difference. If any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, as he ought to know. But if any man love God, the same is known of him. So we want to focus on loving our neighbor, not hitting them over the head with their idol. As concerning, therefore, the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in this world, and there is no other God than just the one. So we have God on one hand, we have an inanimate object over here. Which one would you turn to for help? Which one would you expect to care for you? Now, you could have a rock, you could have a Cabbage Patch doll, you could have anything. If you make it an idol, you can make money an idol. It won't do anything for you. Now, money can expand a little bit beyond a rock and what it can do for you, but ultimately it can't give you what you need. You need the love of God flowing through you, and the only way to get that is to approach God through Jesus, and you can get that. The rock is going to do nothing. The rock would have been something that the religious leaders that worship Baal would have been familiar with. They prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and nothing could light the fire. The Elijah story. And yet he calls on God, and God wipes out the altar that's been drenched in water. Our God is omnipresent, powerful, loving, the creator. An idol, it's the work of man that can do nothing. Okay, so in verse 5, for though there be that are called gods, little g, whether in heaven or earth, as there be gods many, and lords many, you can attribute this to just about anybody or anything. There's only one true God, but you can have many little g's. But to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom all things are by him. Howbeit there is not every man that has this knowledge, for some, with conscience of the idol, unto this hour, eat it as a thing offered to an idol. You can offer something to an idol and then eat it. The idol's not going to complain. And their conscience being weak is defiled. You're not doing anything to accomplish anything, but meat common to us, but not to God. For neither if we eat, we are better, neither if we eat not, we are the worse. It doesn't matter whether you eat or not. It doesn't matter. Your connection to God is what matters. But take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours becomes a stumbling block to them that are weak. If it bothers somebody, don't do it in front of them. If there's nothing wrong with it and it's just their imagination, you praying over your meal might bother someone. I don't necessarily say to stop doing that, but what I'm saying is instead of making an outward appearance of it, if it bothers somebody, most people in a restaurant aren't going to be bothered, but if for some reason it bothers somebody, simply talk to God without the outward signs. God hears you whether you bow your head or have your head upright. Anything that we do for God, with God, to God, can be offensive to the world. Jesus was offensive to the world, and we're to be like him. For if any man see thee which has knowledge sit at meat in an idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? And of thy knowledge shall the weak brother perish for whom Christ died? You don't want to harm people. You know what God expects of us. If something bothers somebody else, don't visibly do it. Be kind. For when you sin so against the brethren and wound the weak conscience, you sin against Christ. So if you're doing it deliberately to upset them, God says, don't do that. Be kind. Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. So he behaves himself in front of people that would be bothered by it. Yes, they have a problem, but we don't need to kick them while they're down. Chapter 8 was short. Chapter 7 was a long chapter for the last video. I did a whole video on that, the marriage chapter, but we're going to get to some longer chapters, but right now we made it through 8, so we're going to move on, press on till 9. And it's where Paul surrenders his life, is the title. I am not an apostle, Paul says. I am not free. Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Are not ye my work in the Lord? Talking to the Corinthians. If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you, for the seal of my apostleship are in you in the Lord. Mine answer to them is to examine me in this. Have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about our sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and the brethren of the Lord, and Cephas? Or I only and Barnabas have not power to forbear working? Where's the credit go? Who goes to warfare at any time at his own charges? Who planteth a vineyard and eateth not of the fruit? Or who feedeth all the flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? So he can partake in it. Say I these things as a man, or saith not the law the same also? For it is written in the law of Moses, Thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Does God take care of the oxen? So in other words, corn needs to be crushed. You can have an animal walk on it. They used to have a pole sticking out that you would harness the ox to, or it could be, any hooven animal, because you want something with good solid feet to crush the corn, and just have them walk around this pole that goes in a circle, and you throw the corn down there, and he walks on it and crushes it. Yeah, you could do the same thing with a millstone, but they didn't have millstones back then. Not the point where anybody could have one. You might own an ox because you need it to pull the plow or whatever else you're going to do. And you give them a second job, and that's to get the corn ready to make the cornmeal. Or saith he that altogether for our sakes, no doubt this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that threshes in hope should be a partaker of the hope. So, whatever you're involved in, you can survive off of it. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all these things, lest you should hinder the gospel of Christ. Do we not know they which minister about holy things live in the things in the temple, and they which wait with the altar? Even so has the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. Practice what you preach. But I have used none of these things, neither have I written these things, that it should be so done unto me. Paul didn't come demanding things. For it is better for me to die than for any man should make my glory void. God will take care of everybody. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. Woe unto me if I preach not the gospel. He has to preach the gospel. He is a religious leader, a misguided one early on, but God saw the potential of what he was trying to do and just pointed him in the right direction. Sometimes that's all we need. Now, as a Christian, we should never just point in the direction and go. We should point in the direction, look to see where God is, and walk with him wherever we go. And if we wander off, God, help me to get back with you wherever we're supposed to be. Once you realize you wandered off, your God GPS will direct you back to where God is. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. Don't talk about God to anybody if you don't want to. As a Christian, you should want to. Do it with love, not with, oh, I have to go to work today. I have to talk to these people about God today. Oh, woe is me. You're not displaying the fruits of the Spirit very well. If you can't do something to help somebody, what's the expression? If you can't do something right, don't do it at all. What is my reward then? Verily, that when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. For though I be free from all men, yet I have made myself a servant unto all, that I might gain the more. Paul's a servant to Christ, which makes him a servant to mankind. If you're a servant, you don't usurp the power of the master. You do what the master wants you to do. Now, the master in this case is God. What better master can anybody have? And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law I might gain them that are under the law. Now, he knows the law is not going to lead them to salvation, but the law does lead them to God. To them that are without law, as without law, not being without law to God, but under the law of Christ, that I may gain them that are without the law. So, your motivations for helping people are going to be different depending on their background. The way you help non-Christians versus Christians. Someone of another faith, you've got to understand that they've had years to become part of that faith. You can't just turn the switch off. If you've been a smoker for 30 years, it's difficult to turn the switch off. Rarely people can do that and just stop cold turkey, as they call it. But most people can't. They have to have something to help them to get over it. A patch. They're trying vaping, but vaping is becoming a problem. And they didn't look at the long-term ramifications of it, so be careful. To the weak, I became as weak that I might gain the weak. Why do we go through trouble sometimes? Troubles can sometimes be to strengthen us, but some of the times the trouble can be to give us commonality with somebody else having the same problem. If somebody's had a heart attack, can somebody who's never had one talk to somebody? You can, but it would be better if you've got somebody who also has had a heart attack and been cured of it or repaired from it and going on with their life happily. It can be a shocking situation for people to go through something traumatic like that. You want to talk to people that have been through it. Can a person who's never seen war talk to somebody who has? Yeah, but can you relate? So we go through a lot of things sometimes just to help us relate. I am made all things to all men, that I might be by all means save some. Doesn't say save all, save some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be a partaker thereof with you. Know ye that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that you may obtain it. There's only one winner of a race. Nobody remembers the person who came in second. Quite frankly, nobody remembers the vice president. Only the president, unless the vice president goes on to be president. Vice presidents tend to disappear. They shouldn't be taking the glory and credit for anything because they're just there as a backup. Verse 25, and every man that striveth for the mastery is now temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible one. So the world gets a crown. We've seen the Queen of England wear her crown. There's a famous Sherlock Holmes story about a crown. I like that one. But it's an earthly one, and it crumbles, and I can remember seeing in the Sherlock Holmes one where they discover it, it's all in pieces. Doesn't look very pretty, but then you can see the little jewels every once in a while sticking out of the rubble. What was left, it's in a box, but what was left of the crown. Our heavenly crowns will never even get a blemish on them. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I not as one that beateth the air. You've seen a boxer just kind of just throwing punches, just swinging at the air. He's fighting to make sure each blow connects. We just lost George Foreman, heavyweight boxer. Everybody goes, just whenever the time is. I think he was 76. I'm amazed that he lived that long. Somebody who's taken that many blows. We found that some boxers actually get brain injuries that cause them to die early. It's not the sport for everyone. 27, but I keep under my body, and I bring it under the subjection, lest that by any means that I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. How are we doing on time? How big is 10? Oh, it's big. Yeah, 30 verses. I'm trying to keep these short because I know people have a hard time watching and listening for a long time. Paul has a lot of good advice. Now, is he given us the knowledge of him? Jesus is certainly pulling it out. He's got a lot of worldly knowledge, but God is speaking through Paul as God has done through all the writers in the Bible. You have to connect to God. And if you're going to read the Bible, don't just pick it up and start reading, unless, of course, you're starving for the Word. You could read a couple of verses, but then I would stop and pray. Sometimes you just got to get God into your head because there's so much other stuff. So you might read a couple of familiar verses just to kind of put something in there, but then stop. It's sort of like that's what they have hors d'oeuvres for when you go to dinner. It's to whet your palate, to give you something to eat, to make you think about good food. You get bread or crackers or something. I love the sourdough loaves that they can bring out. Have some of that. Have some good butter on it. And then you have your meal. So, I mean, you can do that, but I wouldn't try to read any more than a couple of verses without praying first. And you could even pray briefly, just, God, help me with this, and read a couple of verses, and then have a long talk with him. What I'm saying is you can pray in 30 seconds to get yourself started, but then you should be praying to God 30 minutes a day, minimum. It says pray without ceasing, but I mean, I'm talking to God all the time, all day long. But sometimes I have to stop, be quiet, because sometimes you have to listen. And you only hear God if you're quiet listening. What is that? Trump declares war on deep state. Yeah. I've had to turn notifications on because I noticed I was missing stuff. So now I got to listen to that every time I'm recording if somebody sends a message in during that time. We're winning small battles, but the war is not over. The rapture will probably put a complete stop to everything that's going on that's for the good. All good and perfect things come from above. So all these good things that are happening, we can thank God for them, but we know where the world is going. And I think that our praying in the United States has given us this little reprieve. But we're approaching Passover and Easter. What are we going to see? Are we going to see a rapture? I'm not predicting anything. Some people claim that it's a high watch period. I'll give them that. But every day, frankly, for those believers, it should be a high watch day, every day, because we don't know. That doesn't mean to stop doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're supposed to do. When Jesus comes, he should find you diligently working for him in whatever you do. God says to whatever your job is, do it as if you're doing it unto the Lord. So if you're putting widgets into a thingamabob, then do it as if you're doing it for the Lord. And he will credit that as doing his work. If you're a preacher, you've got a different scenario, but you still should be doing the Word of God is your charge to distribute. But maybe it's just simply your job is to comfort people. Yesterday, a lady fell. They called me and I had to help her get back on her feet because she couldn't. I think she's 82. Cut her wrist a little bit. It should be fine. You do whatever you're called to do, happily. So, just keep watching. When you look up in the sky, God created every one of those stars for us to look at. Quick rabbit story before I wrap up here, looking at the time. If you haven't noticed Orion in the sky, you're not really paying attention. There's 3 stars that are supposed to be in the belt, and then it goes up to the body and down for the legs. It's Orion. The 3 stars that are in there, and I can't remember their names because they're complicated. They're not numbers, but they actually have names. I saw a little graphic to kind of put it in perspective. It showed a ball, and a ball about, yay big, and then a pinpoint down here, our sun. Our sun is big as we look at it in the sky, or as we perceive it in the sky, because you shouldn't look at the sun. But these stars that are in the belt of Orion are gigantic compared to it. The universe is vast, all created for our enjoyment and pleasure. This planet is created for our enjoyment and pleasure. Get out and enjoy it. And please God while you're doing it, because he created it. Thank God while you're at it, because he created it. The sun's up now. It was dark when I started this, I think. see crows out there. I can hear geese. I see other birds flying. I'm next to a lake. Waterfowl. I love that. I've got 2 eagles that live over there in the trees. I see them occasionally. Actually, I'm only seeing one at a time now because one's probably nesting. I see deer almost every day in the park. They live here and they come out and eat the grass. Enjoy the world that God created. It should bring joy to you. And then help people along the way. You do what you can. We can't solve all the world problems. God can't solve all the world problems. He's powerful enough, but people have to let him solve their problems. And if they don't let him, he has to sit and watch them flounder, as we do sometimes. We watch people flounder because we can't help them until they're ready. But then you should be ready to help them like that as soon as they say help. Until we meet in the clouds, God bless.